fighting, are you? We love you, and for the couple of conservatives left in Minnesota, thank you for coming to our state. Actually, our ranks are big and they're growing. Thanks to you, the conservative voice is growing in Minnesota. So thank you, rightonline, for coming to our great state. Thank you for everything you do, because we have had so much fun together. We've been pulling back the curtain in Washington, D.C., and together we've been exposing the waste and the corruption and all of these things that are going on in Washington that were kept hidden for so long. And now we've been able to join our forces and join our voices with the power of the social media, and now these people can't run and they can't hide. We're on to them. You're the best intrepid reporters I know, and I love you all. Thank you for being here. I don't know if you know, but there was a debate earlier this week. It was a presidential debate. It was sponsored by CNN, and it was in New Hampshire, and I don't know about you, I learned quite a lot during this debate. Number one, I learned that Newt prefers American Idol. I also learned that Ron Paul prefers the BlackBerry over the iPhone, and I also learned that Herm Cain likes deep dish pizza. So I don't know. And although I am a die-hard Johnny Cash fan, unfortunately the world now knows that I have Christmas with Elvis on my iPod. But I have to tell you, and I hope you can keep a secret, because I had a little case of the nerves before I went up there, and it really was centered on the fact that I thought they might ask the candidates the question, boxers or briefs? What's a girl supposed to do? But there were three things, though, that I did take away from that debate in New Hampshire, and I think the first thing is this. In sharp contrast to the current occupant of the White House, I think one thing that we saw, there is leadership on the part of the Republican Party, and I felt honored. To be able to announce there that I had filed my paperwork to seek the office of the presidency of the United States. That I'll file pretty soon with that, but in the last 5 years, as I've been to Washington, what I have tried fervently to do is to bring a different voice to Washington and to the halls of Congress that hasn't been heard for very long. And now it is being heard. It is being taken seriously. And my goal is to take that voice to the White House, where it hasn't been heard for a very long time. And in order to do that, I think what we're going to need to do is to adopt the three-legged stool idea, because we need to add to our ranks. That's where all of you come in. Because we have to have, in this election cycle, the strong, peace through strength conservatives. We need that leg. We can't kick them out of the tent. They need to be in. We need the strong, fiscal conservatives, and I'm one of them. Just like I'm a peace through strength conservative, I'm one of them. But we also need the social conservatives too, and I'm one of them. We can't kick them out of the tent. And we need the Tea Party movement. Deathly afraid of the Tea Party movement. They can't do it. They want you to think that the Tea Party is just the right-wing fringe of the Republican Party. And I am here to tell you, I've been all across the country, the Tea Party movement is an idea. And it's an idea that is being embraced right now. And this is what is terrifying the left in their boots. They're quaking now because they see what we already knew, and it's this. The Tea Party movement is made up of disaffected Democrats. It's made up of independents. It's made up of people who've never been political a day in their life before. It's made up of libertarians, Republicans. This is a huge coalition that showed up in force in 2010. And I'm just here to tell you, this group is just getting steam. They're going to be president. Michele Bachmann, this is the polling data that is bearing this out. And right now, President Obama is enjoying some of the lowest approval ratings of his presidency. Because the Tea Party movement is simply about taking our country back. We are very practical people. We are fair-minded people. And all we want to do is see this country work again, and it is going to happen. I'm just here to say it to you. What a great story to tell. Because make no mistake about it, Barack Obama will be a one-term president. The debate is the good people of New Hampshire reminded us that this economy will really be about jobs, or this election will really be about jobs and the economy. There's no way around it because the president has failed the country so miserably. You know, we are now 2 years into an economic recovery. Were you aware of that? We're 2 years into it. Now, normally when you go into a recovery, you begin to have a dramatic turnaround. In fact, you start adding jobs at hundreds of thousands of jobs a month. How's the president doing? Not so great. That's right. We're now approaching the Obama trench of a double-dip recession. All the economists have said, oh, no, it's never going to happen. It's happening. And that explains why people are so worried today about their retirement. Are you talking to people about that? Yep. I am all across America. That's why they're so worried. They have dreams for their children. They see those dreams falling apart. Those people are the voters that I believe we can capture with our positive message in 2012. And I think also it's about how we're going to reverse this trend. You've already talked about it all this morning, about job creation. I'm a job creator. My husband and I started from scratch a company, and we like profit. And we like people who turn a profit. Story. It's a positive story, and it's one that Barack Obama cannot tell because he has this big F on his report card right now. So he cannot tell that story. We're in the perfect position to tell that story to America. And if you want to sum up this election, I think, in some of the most simple terms, think of it this way. On the day that Barack Obama took office, the price of a gallon of gasoline was $1.79 a gallon. Today it's about $3.75. 10 days after the election, do you know what the price of gold was? It was $940 an ounce. Today it's $1,500 an ounce. Has the president failed us on keeping the soundness of the currency? You bet he has. Then take a look at the debt, the national debt. The day that President Obama took office, your share, we all owe this national debt. We look at the numbers, they're so big, we kind of can't even get our arms around them. But the fact is, we have to really pay this money back. This isn't funny money. Someone really has to pay this back. And our individual share of the debt, the day that Barack Obama took office as President of the United States, was $35,000 per person. Do you know what it is today? $46,000 per person. The president has been in office just over 2 years, and he's already increased the national debt 35% on his watch. Has he failed us when it comes to spending and national debt? Of course the president has failed us. And what I'd like to know, I guess, is if you'd like to join me in sending him change of address cards to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Been more important than the signature issue of President Obama's tenure as president as the issue of Obamacare. Now, you've probably talked about this already a little bit today, but you cannot talk about this issue enough as far as I'm concerned. Because Obamacare, the government takeover of healthcare, the American version of socialized medicine, and I am proud to say it because that's exactly what it is. Obamacare is the symbol of the difference between constitutional conservatives and the liberal left. Whether you're talking about spending, or debt, or jobs, or government overreach, Obamacare says it all. And the liberals have been very busy prior to this most recent scandal in Washington, D.C., and when don't we have one? But the liberals were busy scaring senior citizens over the issue of Medicare. Do you remember that fight? They're itching to get back to that fight. But there's a story that I want all of you to go out and tell. Because just like Andrew Breitbart told you last night, get off your heels. Stop being on defense. Be on offense. Because on Medicare, we've got the story that we need to tell. And this is it. 2 weeks ago, I was in a closed-door private meeting at the White House with Barack Obama. And in that meeting, the president was asked, not once, not twice, but 3 times, Mr. President, what is your plan on Medicare? Because the statistics in Washington, D.C. tell us Medicare is going to be flat broke in 13 years. Flat broke. Then what do senior citizens do in this country? So, Mr. President, what's your plan? And of course, he was dancing around the question. He didn't want to give an answer. Even though the media weren't present in the room, he still didn't want to give an answer. But the answer was no. He does not have a plan. But something was very revealing in the comments that the president said. He mumbled, but we have Obamacare. And this is something that's very serious that hasn't come out yet. Because President Obama and his liberal compatriots want you to think that Medicare is going to continue to go on as it currently is for senior citizens if Barack Obama stays in power. Here's the dirty little secret that I hope all of you start to tell the world. I believe that President Obama's plan is that Medicare obviously won't be able to continue. And so senior citizens won't have Medicare. They'll be rolled into Obamacare. That's the future for senior citizens in this country. And nobody has told this story. Now this is the other thing you need to know. Who will be directing Obamacare? Who will be making those decisions? We already know who will enforce it. 16,500 IRS agents. Doesn't that give you comfort when you go to sleep at night? I know a little bit something about that. That's not the compassion I want to have in healthcare. But what's even worse is senior citizens will lose control over what they actually get in Medicare. Because an appointed, politically appointed, 15-member board that's unelected and unresponsive to the will of the people, called IPAB, will make the decisions about what care we get and what care we don't. And if you don't like the decision that they make, maybe they decide, we'll do 50,000 hip replacements. Who knows what they'll decide? But if you don't like the decision that they decide, guess what you have to do? All you have to do is convince 2/3 of the members of Congress in each chamber to overturn IPAC. Oh, gee, that's easy. That's what we have to do. That is the point. And that's why you are all so pivotal to 2012. We need to tell the story about President Obama's plan, not only for senior citizens, but for all of us. I was the very first member of Congress after the health care bill passed for Obamacare to go down to the floor the next morning and introduce the full-scale repeal of Obamacare. We can't let the American people think this is it and that we have to succumb to Obamacare. We've got to do something about this. So my staff and I stayed up after midnight and we wrote that bill. And it basically says, let's repeal this sucker. That's about what it comes down to. It's 31 words long and it is the full-scale repeal of Obamacare. And I promise to you today that as President of the United States, I will not rest until we repeal Obamacare. Industry, it's a job killer. Obamacare, according to the Congressional Budget Office, will kill over 800,000 jobs. Now let me ask you, what rational person would put forth a bill that would kill 800,000 jobs, knowing full well that would be the result? Now this is interesting. Here we are, we've already lost 2.5 million jobs with President Obama's job creation plans. We've already lost 2.5 million, and now we're looking at 800,000 more. And the reason why I think senior citizens are so onto this and get it, the problem with Obamacare, is because President Obama, another dirty little secret that you probably didn't hear on Katie Couric, but then a lot of you probably don't even know who Katie Couric is. Anyway, President Obama took $500 billion, $500 billion out of Medicare to shift to younger people in Obamacare. So senior citizens, this is your entree to Obamacare. You're not getting more doctors or more nurses. In fact, you're losing $500 billion in care, and this is your future under the president's plan for you. Well, that does represent the failure of health care, but I think President Obama's morbid obesity when it comes to spending and deficits is probably even more reflective of what is the worst about Washington, D.C. And I think it's highly interesting that the President's Joint Chief of Staff, Admiral Mike Mullen, said that the #1 national security risk that is facing the United States of America right now is our national debt. Now, wouldn't you think, as Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States would listen to the Joint Chiefs of Staff? We're not hearing some interesting by some listening from our politicians. The issue that we're going to deal with right now, this summer, raising the debt ceiling. Now, do all of you know what this means? This means giving the Congress authority to borrow more money that we don't have to keep on spending. Now, does this sound like a good idea? No. Does this sound like a good idea? In the past 10 years, Congress has raised the debt ceiling 10 times in 10 years. Now, I've been in Congress now, this is my 3rd time. We've had about a half dozen of these votes. I have voted no on every single debt ceiling. Funny, that's not Nancy Pelosi's response when I do that. But if you had a dollar bill in your pocket right now, I'd like you to take it out of your wallet if you still have one left. If you have a dollar, I'd like you to take it out and hold it up if you got it. Because I want to talk to you just for a second about raising the debt ceiling and what it means. Because as you look at your dollar, the reason why I have voted no on allowing Congress to continue to borrow and spend more money, as you look at this dollar, don't fold it in half, fold it about 40% behind, and you have about 60% of that dollar left. The reason why I do that is to show to you that every time Congress spends a dollar, 42 cents is borrowed money. Borrowed money. Think of that for a second. Could you live that way? I mean, honestly, could you live that way for a month, for 2 months, borrowing 42 cents of every dollar you spend? I can't live that way. My business couldn't go on that way. The federal government can't live that way. And the worst, most egregious one of all is through the Department of Energy and their backdoor rules on cap and trade. Now, I have to make a confession to all of you. I am not convinced of the science that human activity is the cause of global warming. Will give Washington more unimaginable power over every square inch of our life than any other legislation that's being proposed out there today outside of Obamacare. Whether it's over the house that we live in, how we heat it or cool it, or the cars we drive, or even, for heaven's sakes, what light bulbs we're even allowed to use. That's why after the 2007 energy bill, I want you to know, and I'm a little smug about this, I introduced the Light Bulb Freedom of Choice Act. And with President Bachmann, every American can buy any light bulb they want in the United States. That the EPA should be renamed the Job-Killing Agency of America. In order to tell this wonderful story that we are going on offense to tell, I think we need to have a very different kind of leader. We need a leader who isn't afraid of economic liberty, who isn't afraid to tell the story of the genius of the United States and the power to free and mobilize people, no matter what their background, through economic liberty. It's a beautiful story, and the United States has been the living laboratory throughout time that has told that story. We need a new leader who will stand for the right of the founders to have limited government and to again draw from the incredible wisdom of the American people under we the people. Well, who is that leader? Well, earlier this week, oh, you have a suggestion. Earlier this week on stage, I said, I am Michele Bachmann. I am a former federal tax litigation attorney. I'm a businesswoman. My husband and I together started a successful company. I'm also a member of Congress, but don't hold that against me. We're also the proud parents. We've been married 33 years. We're the proud parents of 5 children. The youngest is off to college. The oldest is now a physician. And we've also been privileged to raise 23 great foster children. great time here today, and you've just been such a wonderful audience. And I think one thing that we know from this conference, and as a result of it, that we do face nearly insurmountable odds, both on the domestic front and as well from the foreign front as well, with threats from terrorists. That never forget, every day wake up thinking of ways to kill Americans and destroy the United States. Never forget. I am confronted every day on the House Intelligence Committee that I'm privileged to sit on with these threats. And one thing I want to say, just parenthetically, is that I think one of the most dangerous acts and words of this president is when he called upon the state of Israel to shrink their borders to independent. And he's from ancient Israel. And from history we know, in the recorded annals of time, that this was someone considered more inconsequential. But to me, he had an inspiring, powerful story. His name was Jonathan. And it was in ancient Israel, his father was a king. He was the first king of ancient Israel, and his name was King Saul. And there was another battle that Israel faced. And that battle was with a group of people called the Philistines. And the Philistines had a position of power. And they were up on a cliff during the time of this battle. And King Saul looked up the cliff, and he saw that the Philistines far outnumbered the Israelites, and that they were far better equipped and had every possible advantage that they could have against Israel. And so the king pulled back. And the king saw that because of the great advantage that the Philistines had, he waited. He was paralyzed with fear, and he saw certain defeat for Israel. But not so his son Jonathan. Jonathan made a secret pact with his armor bearer. And Jonathan turned to his armor bearer, and as he enlisted that support, he said to the armor bearer, "Let's climb to the top of the outpost where the Philistines stand." And so Jonathan turned to his compatriot, the armor bearer, and he said these words, "Come then, we will cross over toward the men and let them see us. If they say to us, 'Wait there until we come to you,' we will stay and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up to us,' we will climb up, because that will be our sign that the Lord has given them into our hands." So what did the armor bearer reply? The reply of the armor bearer was one of loyalty and trust. And the armor bearer said this, "Go ahead, I am with you, heart and soul." And so they climbed. And Jonathan and the armor bearer not only defeated the Philistines who were at the outpost, Jonathan and the armor bearer defeated the entire Philistine army. And it's all because two men had courage, and they scaled the cliffs, and they took the enemy, and they won the day. And it's my opinion that at this moment in American history, the people of this great nation have that courage. And they are longing for a president who will listen to them and who will lead from the front and not from behind, and who will stand with them and take the cliffs of the problems that we have in this country today, because the American people know in their spirit that we can do this, that together we can do this, and we can turn this country around. and together we will.